For this commentary track, I decided to pick the movie The Night of the Living Dead, which was made in 1968 by George A. Romero. This was an independent zombie horror film that grossed $12 million domestically and $18 million internationally on a budget of $114,000. Interestingly, this movie was meant to be a horror comedy with teenage aliens who befriend humans, yet it is now a zombie cult classic many horror lovers enjoy watching. I chose this movie because it was different from the majority of the films we have watched during the duration of this course. This movie encompasses many different topics we have learned, such as cinematography, sound, genre, and mise-en-scene. I'm starting this commentary just about 10 minutes within the film, where the main actress Barbara, played by Judith O'Dea, runs into a nearby farmhouse after her brother was attacked by a zombie at a cemetery. In this scene, we see Barbara running away from a zombie and tries to open one of the doors to a farmhouse. Once she realizes the door does not open, she decides to run around the corner and quickly falls. In this quick scene, we take a glance of a bunch of camera angles. When she hits the door, we see a close-up of her face, and the camera does a medium shot from the ground as she's running around, and then we gain another close-up of her face when she falls. And then we begin to see another medium long shot, to which then extends to a long shot of her in the distance running around the corner as she tries to find another entry towards the farmhouse. Here, the camera meets up with her face, showing a medium close-up of her, and then expands over to the field where the audience can see the zombie walking towards her. The camera once again shows Barbara's face, yet showing her petrified. In this scene, the filmmakers create intensity and suspense from the lighting and the sound. The lighting is framed in a manner in which the actress and her path are lit, yet the sides are in complete darkness. The music becomes more distinct, intense, creating more to the scene. The sound of lightning mixing in with the music adds a sense of realism to her situation. Fidelity is one aspect of sound used in this movie to create a more realistic element to what is occurring. According to the textbook Film Art, fidelity refers to the extent to which the sound is faithful to the source as which we conceive it. In other words, when we saw Barbara running around outside, we saw a bunch of clouds or cloudiness. It was very dim. And when we see clouds or rain, we hear lightning. Therefore, the sound of lightning in this film creates a sense of fidelity, a sense of realism. The use of music begins to become more suspenseful and more interesting, and this is known as non-diegetic sound, which is represented as coming from a source outside of the world. Therefore, or in other words, the music, the soundtrack, the orchestra, any violins or playing or piano, anything from outside of the film is known as non-diegetic sound. And this is used a lot during horror films to create intensity or to provide more to the situation that the characters are within, versus diegetic sound, which is used or is known as dialogue from actors. Here we see a lot of lighting which only is shown on her but not around her. And as Barbara begins to walk around the house, the audience can see that there's rugs that are flipped over, there's lamps, there's a lot of props thrown around all over the floor. This quickly tells everyone, including her, that something did happen. There may have been a struggle that occurred within that house. This scene, if you can hear the music, it's quiet, it's not as suspenseful, and the lighting is not as dramatic as she continues to look and check every single room. Suddenly, the music becomes very loud and shows quick shots of dead animals' heads displayed along the wall. I believe the scene was done to create a jump or scare into the audience. Here we see the zombie lurking around the house, and this scene right here, we can visibly see the setting of the film. Now, according to the textbook and once mentioned in my previous commentary page on 115, mise-en-scene offers the filmmakers 4 general areas of choice and control: setting, costumes, makeup, lighting, and staging, which includes the acting and movement within a shot. The setting, being the farmhouse, makes it look realistic to the audience compared to the use of a fake farmhouse that can be used on stage. Now, the only reason why many people would view this as more real of a farmhouse compared to a farmhouse on stage would be because you can see there are trees, and on behind the zombie right over here you can see that there are more trees which look to be very real, and he's walking around on dirt. So this creates a sense of realism for the audience. Makeup is also a very important component, especially in this film, only because the zombies are meant to look real. So not only are they supposed to walk in a specific manner that is most likely choreographed, but in order for them to look real, the makeup artist had to use a lot of makeup to make them look like they are genuinely dead. The lighting in the scene is done to show backlighting. It produces shadow around the face of Barbara, yet it has a light glimmering or showing behind her as she tries to call for help. Here all we see is complete darkness, only light is shown where she is. Then we quickly see her go up to the window. This was a technique that they used once again, and that they used several times throughout the film, in which it's very calm, the music is tame, it is a little eerie, is a little intense, but it is not as loud, and I guess it provides the audience with a sense of comfort. And then it'll drastically change into the next scene where we immediately see a zombie and the music becomes really loud. This happens to be a very common tactic in a lot of horror films. This is supposed to create a lot of suspense or jump for audiences, and it causes a lot of adrenaline. Here we see Barbara going upstairs, and again we see everything very calm, and then we are immediately seeing a scary image of a dead body, and the music becomes extremely loud once again. Once it was quiet and then again loud. So out of fear, she runs all the way down to the front door and opens it, only to be blinded by headlights of a car. The lighting goes from extreme darkness to extreme brightness in seconds. Here we are now introduced to a new character who's escaping the zombies as well. His name is Ben, and Ben is played by Dwayne Jones. He decides to come in the house and quickly explains to Barbara how he can help and protect her. Yet she does not respond, out of shock to the question of whether or not she has the key for him to take her away before more zombies come. Ben tries to use the phone and notices it doesn't work. The lighting here, you can see again, it's very dark, but there's a lot of backlighting. And here we see Barbara, and she looks up at the staircase, and out of curiosity, Ben comes over just to calm her and ask her if she lives here. He sees her facial expression and decides to go up to see what she's so afraid of. As he goes up the stairs, he sees the dead corpse. However, in the scene, the audience may not be as afraid as they were the first time they were introduced to the corpse, because this time there was no suspenseful music playing. This is kind of a trick where most of the audience may have expected this loud, boisterous sound like orchestra playing as the corpse was shown again, but instead it was not. In this next scene, we begin to hear a noise what we may think is non-diegetic at first, because we cannot see the source from where it is coming from. But then as she examines it, she sees that it is blood dripping from the top of the stairs where the dead body was and falls upon Barbara's hand. Okay, I will end the commentary here. I chose this first few minutes or 10 minutes within the movie only because within this little time span we were shown a lot of calm introductions into the film. There wasn't a lot of loud music playing. The lighting was pretty simple. It was bright, but it wasn't too bright, and it wasn't dark, because the majority of the time Barbara was outside with her brother, and they were at a cemetery. And then within the 10 minutes of the film, it immediately changes drastically with her running away into this farmhouse that is completely dark. There's no lighting. And the only lighting that is provided seems to be peering through the windows. And the filmmakers did it in a way where it just frames her and any path she goes into, and the music becomes very suspenseful and very loud at times, and then very calm and other times. And throughout the film it continues to do that, but this was a movie made in 1968, so as of right now it may not seem as scary, but these tactics seem to be still going on. If people were to watch Paranormal Activity, something more recent, sound effects are still one of the biggest things. Music and sound itself provides a lot more suspense and intensity towards scenes. And yes, and it was very awesome doing the commentary again and doing it for a film that is completely different from any other film I have seen in a while.